Hello, everyone. Baz here of CodeBoxMedia.com. Special guest in the studio today is Eventide. He is the general manager or guild master of Dark Enclave, a Sith PvE guild. How's it going there, Even?
It's going well.
That's good. That's good. Why don't you use this time to kind of give us a explanation of the guild?
Dark Enclave actually started out as a bunch of WoW expatriates that really got sick of the way Blizzard was dealing with things over there and sick of playing the same game. Of course, it was a 10-year-old game.
Of course.
So, it kind of, the luster had come off. We decided, we tried several other different games, never could find one that we could all enjoy. Uh, then Star Wars came out and it really kind of grabbed our attention. A bunch of us created the guild Dark Enclave with the intention of, and it's still the goal of purely raiding. That's all we're going to do. It's for mature individuals. It's not something that we want a whole lot of kids in. If the kids are mature, then that's fine. If they're not, then we don't want them. If adults aren't mature, then we don't want them either. It's a matter of, we're all adults. We all have real lives and jobs, and we can't really give 15 hours a day to this game, and I don't have the desire to do that either.
Right,
So
right.
we're looking for maximum effort in the minimal amount of time. So we have three different rating groups that go on 2-day cycles, 3 hours each day. So
Okay.
it's basically 2 days a week you'll be in on a cycle for no greater than 6 hours on rating. And with the way Star Wars works, that's more than enough time to get to raids in for the week.
Right, right. Of course, of course. Explain how you guys are going to handle loot and just kind of how you deal with people when they misbehave or maybe they're not pulling their own weight. Um, just kind of explain that for a little bit.
Well, loot's pretty simple. Loot really doesn't matter for anything prior to heroics because everybody gets their own loot satchel on non-heroic raids. On the heroic raids, though, we do have a loot council. Those loot council are officers in the guild that are independent and do not answer to any other officer except for myself and other GMs. Their sole job is to raid, and they have to know who the main players are in that raid because when we do heroics, loot council will be determining who gets what drops. So if we have one tank that's there all the time and another tank that's only there some of the time, loot council will make the determination on which one of those two gets it, and it should be the individual that rates the most, gives the most benefit to the guild.
Okay,
What was
so
the other?
the other question was how are you guys going to deal with people that misbehave, that cause trouble, maybe in vent or in guild or maybe publicly give the guild a bad name, or maybe they're complaining about, if loot's not being fairly distributed or if they're not pulling their own weight in a raid setting or even a PvP setting.
Well, since we're still on the topic of loot, if you have a disagreement with how loot works, they come to us, the co-GMs, either myself or one of the other two fellows that are there with me, and we'll take a look at it. Chances are you probably I've got good people in the loot council, so I'm not concerned about having to backtrack and reprimand anybody for that. So that's not really a concern. For people who act up in guild, it's like I said, we're mature players. If you do that kind of crap, we've got no interest in having you in the guild. So we have a very, very limited tolerance of that stuff. And if you do something that gives the guild a bad name, then that's it. You're done. You're out. Again, you're an adult or you're mature. Either one or the other. Hopefully both. But if you're mature and you go out and do this stuff, then guess what? You're not really mature. So we have very little tolerance for butt heads and griefers.
Cool, cool. I wish more guilds did that because that's really the way it should be because, you know, I'm sure you've experienced this in previous MMOs, mostly World of Warcraft, that 40-year-old adults would cry and complain over pixels for goodness sake, and you're like, come on, really? I'm
Well,
just,
here's the thing. This is like a giant school bus. Only one person can drive the school bus.
yeah,
If you don't like where this school bus is going or how you have to act on this school bus to get there, then you need to get off the bus and find another bus that you fit in.
very,
Because
very true.
our doors won't open for you if you're a douche.
Yeah, very true, very true. Now, are you guys have raid leaders, I assume, or operations leaders, or whatever you guys want to call them?
Yeah, we have well, we have a couple different levels of it. We have a Minister of War. He's the guy that's over top of all of our raid coordinators. Raid coordinators we call surface marshals. All of our officer titles are based in Star Wars lore.
Very cool.
So the surface marshals, they're the ones that are actually feet on the grounds. They're the ones that's they're the ones that run the raid, and while they're in the raid, they run it. It doesn't matter if an officer higher than them is in there or not. It's their raid.
Right.
That's their job. Uh, it's not the job of any other officer to micromanage them, with the exception of the Minister of War. The Minister of War does, to some degree, micromanage them, in as much as he needs to make sure that they're familiar with all the raid content they're going to be going on, and he
Mm-hmm.
needs to compile the information from all three raid groups, especially when it comes to tactics,
Of course.
to make sure everybody's on the same page, or if one group's having trouble with it, the other's not, maybe they can help them out, or maybe work on other tactics with them.
Okay.
That's the Minister of War. It's a title that is well deserved, but it takes a lot of work. I mean, it really does. You have to be up on every raid. You have to be up on every tactic. So it's tough. It's probably the toughest job in the guild.
So he's basically the general of the army in your guys' guild, pretty much.
Pretty much. Actually, I would venture to say he's probably the Secretary of Defense.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Um, how has your experience been? I know you just recently hit 50. Congratulations on that. Um, the the premise of the game is that it's very linear. I know a lot of people, at least a lot of the fanboys and a lot of the haters are like, "Oh, it's just a BioWare linear game with some MMO elements." What do you have to say to that?
Every MMO is linear to some extent. I mean, you
Right,
can't level in one zone all the way up to 50 in any MMO.
right, right. Well, I mean, I think they're trying to say, well, linear in the fact of story, like you have to go on your class quests or else you can't do anything. Which I guess to some degree is true, but
It's linear in the respect that, yeah, there's a storyline to follow. Um, but again, I mean, you're looking at a storyline in every stinking game that's ever been made.
right,
The whole point of every game is to finish whatever story that they've set forth.
of course.
With that being said, there are so many different paths in that same quest line to go dark, light, or somewhere in the middle.
Hmm.
There's no benefit to go really in the middle right now, but the story is, and I've experienced the story all the way to 50 on the Sith Warrior, and a couple. I got to the 20s on my Bounty Hunter, and things. And I'm in the 20s now on my Sith Inquisitor. The story is so good. I mean, it really is. It got to the point where I really didn't care about leveling.
Hmm.
I wanted to find out that next stage of the story and
Right,
find out
right.
what happened. So, I, as far as it being linear, I don't know how anybody can really make that a valid complaint when you look at any other MMO out there. Look at WoW. WoW doesn't even have a story.
Well, I mean, it does to a certain point if you really follow the lore, but I mean, you really have to kind of be a lore nerd to really kind of appreciate anything that the quests really have to offer. And I mean, let's be honest, like
Well, you have to do out of game research to figure out the in game
yeah, yeah,
things.
a lot of people don't read the quest text anymore. I know once Wrath and Cataclysm came out, I was like, you know what, I just want to hit the next level. I don't care. So, I mean, some of the story I did read in the last two expansions, but once Cataclysm came out, I was like, oh, okay, I don't care anymore.
Story with WoW was never an issue, was never really a focus on anything. I don't
Yeah.
think until Lich King came out. Lich King, they focused a little bit more on story, and but oh well.
Mm-hmm. Well, what has been your biggest complaint about the game? I mean, other than the obvious bugs, other than the performance issues that that are going to be hammered out eventually, what is your biggest complaint and what is your biggest fear about the game in years to come?
Uh, Biggest complaint. I mean, there's not really anything huge. There's no pink elephant in the room, really.
Okay,
It's
well, major annoyance, I should say.
my biggest annoyance right now is the Sith corruption. You can't freaking keep it turned off. But space missions are ridiculous. I mean, they really are. They're not.
Well, I mean,
for me, and that's going to be something that's
personal
yeah,
preference, exactly.
yeah, it's dependent on who plays it. That's probably my biggest complaint that on rails is just kind of crap.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, I'm a huge Star Fox fan, and I don't mind space combat because it's simple, and you do have a point where it is crap right now because it's boring. There's not a lot of challenge to it. I mean, most missions you go with, and your shield regenerates so blasted fast. You're like, oh, I haven't taken any damage this entire mission. Okay. I'm only level 30, so I'm not sure if that changes within the next 20 levels. But space combat is fun, but it does get really boring. Um, I, I think personally, I would really like to see more of a Star Wars Galaxies. I'm not sure if you ever played that or not, but that was definitely more, hey, let's just go dick around in space type of thing, which is fine to a certain point. But I think that hopefully in the next expansion or maybe next expansion to come within a couple of years, I think that they really should elaborate on space combat and maybe make it like, guild versus guild, huge space combat battles or something. I don't know. But you're definitely right on the space combat being crap because it's fun for like the first couple tries, and then you're like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this.
And if you don't, you have a certain amount of time you have to finish those in, and
Yeah,
if you
that's
don't
really
destroy all the things, like you can be one shy of destroying all the things that you need to destroy when time runs out, and you've got to go do the whole stinking thing all over again.
well. Another thing is like some of the dailies require you to do like the ones that you can finish in about 30 seconds, and then you have to fly around for the next 3.5 minutes just shooting stuff for no reason, and you're like, okay, why? I've done all the bonus, I've done all the main objectives, so can I just leave? But no, you gotta continue. You just gotta keep flying around in circles and acting like a moron.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah.
The on-
Go.
the only other complaints I have is there needs to be a little bit, and this is going to come with time, and World of Warcraft still hasn't done it effectively. There needs to be some class balancing done.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Anytime you have a game that does PvP, I mean, you're going to have class balancing,
Well,
especially this early.
yeah. The two classes I found to be just kind of WTF retarded are bounty hunters and inquisitor sorcerers. Um, the bounty hunters more just kind of strike me as a ret paladin where they wear the heaviest armor and they just deal a ton of damage and you just can't touch them. Sith inquisitors have a lot of crowd control and a lot of stun. Um, but they can go down pretty easily if you're a melee class and you get in there. And but yeah, I mean, class balance is definitely, I think, the major thing of any MMO to date, really. I mean, I don't think there's really one MMO that's like super balanced yet. I mean, I honestly can't think of one. Can you? I mean, I can't.
And off the top of my head,
Yeah.
I have a very short attention span for crappy MMOs,
Oh, me too.
so that's why Star Wars Galaxies for me lasted, I think, 2 weeks.
Really?
Rift lasted
Yeah.
Rift lasted maybe a month.
Rift was fun though. You gotta give Rift a lot of credit. They tried a lot of new things, but I think their slogan "You're not an Azeroth anymore" kind of hurt them because people are like, "Oh well, this is the WoW killer. They're trying to kill WoW." It's just like
I don't think that's what's killed them. I think what's killed them, and this is completely off topic from what we were talking about, but
that's okay.
what killed them was their class specializations, where you can have three different class
Oh, I love that.
specializations.
Oh, oh,
That made two or three things viable, and everything else garbage.
well, that's not true though. That's not true because there were a lot of really neat variations that you could do with classes. Like, just for example, a mage could be a melee healer that could get in the middle of stuff and just wreck face, also while healing. Or, you could have a rogue that could have a couple ranger bow shots and stuff if someone tried to run away, or a rogue that could tank and heal. I think Rift was really you either had to
That's the
like.
thing. The rogue, you could have a rogue that was a better tank than someone who had a tank.
Hmm. Yeah, 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 that's true. I mean, yeah. Anyway, off topic. Moving on. So for like the replayability factor for you, is that still there? Is that still fun even after getting to level 50?
Yeah, even going along a similar class storyline, the way I am with the Sith Inquisitor. I mean, it's not so similar that it's mirrored in any way, but you're still basically going to the same planets, dealing with the same people.
Right.
Yeah, there's absolutely replayability. That, and my cousin is he's also in the guild, and he plays a bounty hunter, and keeps me abreast of the storyline that he's up to.
Nice.
He's in his 40s, and it is completely different than anything on the in the Sith side of things, and
Really.
then I'm sure the Imperial agent is even more so.
Yeah.
So yeah, the replayability, the toughest thing, toughest decision for me to make in this game was what's going to be my first alt,
Right. Right.
and that's a good problem to have.
No, no, it is. It definitely is. I mean, for a while there, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make my Sith Inquisitor my alt. I'm playing Imperial Agent right now, and the story is just really awesome. Because the Imperial Agent story is kind of like the James Bond of the Star Wars universe, and I'm a huge James Bond fan, so I thought that was really neat. Um, the light and dark side decisions that you make, I found some of them just to be ridiculous and don't make any sense. But you're like, okay, well, I want to go full dark or full light, so I have to pick this. Do you think that is something that they might be able to address, or there's probably is there really no way around that?
The problem, I think, the biggest problem with it is the text that you get to choose from on that little word wheel um, isn't necessarily what you're going to say when it comes out of your mouth.
Yeah, yes, yes, I would definitely agree with that.
So it's kind of if you're playing it as instead of just going to max dark or max light, like with my Sith Warrior, it didn't matter what the text was. If there was a little upside down triangle that glue red, that's what I picked. Everybody, if I knew you, I probably was going to kill you. I mean, that's the way I ran him.
Ah,
But uh, yeah, I mean, if you're trying to play it as this is my person, this is me in game, and this is how I would make those decisions, and this is how I would respond. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of really hard to do that because, like I said, you don't know. Sometimes they're not even close to what the wheel says
right, right,
you're
yeah.
going to be saying.
Mm.
So that's, I mean, all you have to do is hit escape a
Yeah.
couple times, and you'll back out of it and go back in again and try it again. But there have been times where I've gone 3 and 4 times through it, just trying to figure out. And this is another thing, trying to figure out what your companions
Hmm.
are going to like to hear you say.
Oh yeah.
Because let me tell you, it's hard to get your companion to really, really like it. Level 50, I've got one person maxed on affection.
Nice.